All right, so get the SpaceX.
Yeah.
SpaceX.
Mm-hmm.
They just caught a rocket booster, right? Like midair.
With giant robot arms.
With these giant robot arms. They actually call them chopsticks.
Like, literally chopsticks.
Yeah. I mean, you got to see the video.
It's nuts.
It's like straight out of a Michael Bay film.
Totally.
Except this is, real life, not Hollywood. The craziest part is they actually pulled it off.
Right. People have been talking about catching rockets for decades, but it always seemed like, I don't know, something out of science fiction.
Right, like something that was...
Like a pipe dream, you know?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And it's not like they're catching some little tiny rocket either.
Oh, no. We're talking Starship, right?
Starship, yeah.
The biggest, heaviest thing to ever get off the ground.
It's wild.
Imagine, like, a 20-story building weighing 200 tons falling from space.
And they catch it.
That's what we're talking about here.
It really shows how ambitious SpaceX is, you know? Like, how they're just constantly pushing the limits of what we thought was even possible.
Yeah.
That's what makes them so exciting to follow.
Okay, so back to these chopsticks for a sec.
Yeah.
Because I know when I first saw the headlines, I thought they were literally just, like, grabbing the grid fins, those parts that help steer the rocket.
Right, like wings on a plane, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a natural assumption, I think.
For sure.
But it actually shows how much clever engineering is going on here.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. The chopsticks actually target these specific lifting points.
Underneath the grid fins?
Yeah, underneath the grid fins.
Wow.
They're designed to handle these insane forces involved in the catch.
So it's not just brute force. There's, like...
a lot of finesse involved.
A lot of finesse involved, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I get that rockets are expensive, but why go through all this trouble of catching them?
So imagine this. Every time you drive to the store, you have to buy a brand new car.
That would be...
You drive it once to the store, and then you just chuck it.
That's an expensive grocery run.
That's essentially what we've been doing with rockets.
Wow.
Using them once and then just tossing them in the ocean, basically.
Talk about a waste.
Exactly.
And, like, environmentally, too, right?
That's for sure.
I mean, I guess it's better than, like, littering them across the planet.
True, but still.
But, yeah, so that's why reusability is
huge.
Such a big deal, right?
It's a game changer. Potentially.
Yeah.
Because by catching these boosters and then reusing them, SpaceX could significantly bring down the cost of spaceflight.
Like, how much are we talking here?
Potentially from like $100 million per launch down to something closer to $10 million.
Wow.
Which suddenly makes putting things into orbit a lot more feasible for a lot more people.
That's a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Okay, so is this, like, the shift from single-use plastics to reusable bags, but for space travel?
Basically, yeah. Instead of treating space as this incredibly expensive, single-use thing, it opens up the possibility of it being more accessible for, well, everyone.
That would be amazing.
It could be huge. For research, for experiments.
Yeah.
Maybe even space tourism could become a regular thing.
Oh, imagine that.
That's the dream, right?
Yeah, sign me up.
And honestly, that's just scratching the surface.
Really?
If we can figure out how to make space travel cheaper, who knows what kind of advancements we could see.
That's what's so exciting.
It's an exciting time.
It feels like anything is possible. So cheaper space flights, definitely a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, there's still got to be a lot to figure out, right?
Absolutely.
Like, how do we even know that a rocket that's been to space and back is actually safe to fly again?
Right. That's the $1 million question.
Literally.
Well, more like the $90 million question, right?
Very true.
If we're talking about those savings.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest challenges is how do you deal with that intense heat of re-entry?
Oh, for sure.
That's a tough one.
Because I remember seeing that footage of the Starship prototype coming back down.
Yeah.
And there was, like, some pretty gnarly scorching around the flap hinges. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. That got everyone talking.
It was kind of freaky.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
Those flaps are, like, essential for controlling the spacecraft as it's coming in.
Right.
If those burn off, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, that's not good. So are these heat shield issues going to, like, derail this whole reusability thing?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
But here's the thing about SpaceX. They're all about this iterative design approach.
What does that even mean?
So they're constantly testing things out, learning from those tests, and then using that knowledge to make their designs better.
So it's like they're always learning and improving.
Exactly.
Okay, so they're not just going to, like, ignore this heat shield problem and hope for the best.
No, they're all over it. They've openly acknowledged the issue.
Good.
And they're already working on modifications for the next Starship prototypes.
So it's like a bump in the road, not a complete roadblock.
Exactly, a minor setback on the way to something much bigger.
That's good to hear. Well, it helps that they have a bunch of billionaire rocket scientists at the helm, right?
I mean, it doesn't hurt.
They can just throw money at the problem until it goes away.
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Right.
But having those resources definitely allows them to try out different things.
For sure.
They've got multiple Starships ready to go, which means they can test different heat shield materials, coatings, all sorts of things.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
There's a whole other level of engineering and testing.
Okay, so SpaceX might be confident in their tech.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the FAA?
Oh, right. We can't forget about the FAA.
They're the ones who actually have to give SpaceX the thumbs up for these crazy catches, right?
Exactly.
Especially since these boosters are flying over, places where people live.
Yeah, safety is obviously a huge concern.
Of course.
Even as SpaceX is sure their tech works perfectly.
The FAA doesn't want rocket parts raining down on anyone.
Definitely not.
That's a good way to ruin a picnic.
So, it's very likely that SpaceX is going to have to pull off a few more successful reentries.
A few more?
Before the FAA is totally on board with this whole chopstick catch system.
So it's kind of like getting your driver's license?
In a way, yeah.
A few more tests, and then they're free to cruise around the cosmos.
Something like that.
Speaking of cruising, we got to talk about the Elon Musk factor in all of this.
Right.
He's a
bit of a lightning rod.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
People definitely have strong opinions about him.
That's an understatement.
It's hard to deny his impact, though.
Oh, absolutely not.
He's a visionary entrepreneur, willing to take risks.
And
he constantly pushes the boundaries of what people think is possible.
Yeah, you got to give him that.
But he's also courted his fair share of controversy.
That's for sure.
With some of his public statements and online antics.
Yeah, and we definitely saw that reflected in the online chatter about this whole booster catch thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like, some people were totally geeking out over the ingenuity of it all, while simultaneously criticizing his latest, Twitter or whatever.
It's fascinating, though, because you see so many people consciously trying to separate the work of the SpaceX team from the personality of their CEO.
Right. It's like, okay, I might not agree with everything this guy says.
Yeah.
But you gotta admit, landing a rocket with giant robot arms is pretty freaking cool.
For sure.
It's kind of beautiful, actually.
It's a good reminder that behind all of these crazy achievements, there's a whole team of crazy talented engineers, technicians, and support staff.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They deserve so much credit.
Absolutely.
They're the ones making these seemingly impossible ideas a reality.
Speaking of impossible ideas, did you know that even some people at SpaceX weren't initially sold on this whole chopsticks concept?
Really?
Yeah, apparently some of the engineers were kind of hesitant.
You'd think they'd be used to these outlandish ideas by now, right? Like, what else have they got hidden in those labs?
Seriously.
But no, they were worried about the complexity, the risks involved.
Well, I mean, I get it, right?
Yeah.
You're dealing with incredibly smart people.
Yeah.
But also, like, life or death stakes here.
High stakes.
Yeah, you don't want to mess that up.
Exactly. So their hesitation makes sense.
But Musk, he pushed for it.
He's known for that.
And look, it worked.
It paid off big time.
It makes you wonder what other impossible things they're cooking up over there in Hawthorne.
Right.
Like, what's next?
I don't know, but I can't wait to find out.
Maybe a rocket-powered food truck that can deliver tacos to the moon.
Now, that's an innovation I can get behind.
Right.
Sign me up.
Okay, but seriously, this booster catch, this is a huge deal for SpaceX, right?
Absolutely.
It brings them that much closer to their goal of making spaceflight more affordable, more accessible.
Exactly. It's a huge step in the right direction.
And it just opens up so many incredible possibilities for the future.
It really does.
It feels like we're on the verge of something truly transformative here.
Totally agree.
It's like we're watching the early days of, aviation unfold in real time.
I love that analogy.
And just like those early aviators, SpaceX is out there taking risks, pushing boundaries, inspiring all of us to dream bigger.
They're not afraid to fail, which is so important.
Yeah, I mean, they fail spectacularly sometimes.
They do, but they learn from it.
Yeah, and each attempt brings them one step closer to their goals.
That's the spirit.
And it's a good reminder that the future isn't set in stone,
Oh, absolutely not.
It's being built right now.
One launch, one landing at a time.
And we're all just witnessing history in the making.
And we get front row seats.
The best seats in the house.
And who knows? Maybe someday we'll be booking our own trips to space, all thanks to a pair of giant chopsticks.
That's a future I can get behind. It's kind of wild when you think about it.
What's that?
Like something as, I don't know,
Yeah.
seemingly simple as catching a rocket, right? Could actually be such a game changer.
It's not just about the catch itself. It's about the bigger picture.
What do you mean?
Think of it as like a fundamental shift
Okay.
in how we approach space travel.
Okay.
For centuries, rockets have been these crazy expensive, use it once and it's gone kind of deal.
Right.
SpaceX wants to change that.
How so?
They're trying to make them more like airplanes.
In what way?
Reusable, reliable, and way cheaper to run.
So it's like the difference between taking a one-way trip somewhere versus knowing you can just easily go back and forth whenever you want.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, that opens up so many more possibilities, right?
Absolutely.
For exploration, for research, for maybe even just like
hanging out in space someday.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who knows, right?
That's the dream.
It's a big shift in thinking.
For sure.
And it kind of ties into this larger trend we're seeing with space exploration in general.
Oh, really? Like what?
A move towards sustainability.
Interesting.
Just like we're becoming more aware of our impact on Earth. Yeah.
We need to think about exploring space responsibly.
That makes sense.
Thinking long term.
So it's not just about getting to space.
It's about figuring out how to stay there.
Building a future where space travel is just something we do.
Exactly. Not some crazy one-off thing.
Wow.
And that's where Starship comes in.
Okay. How so?
This isn't just some experimental rocket, right?
Right.
SpaceX sees it as the vehicle that will take us to the moon, Mars, and beyond.
No way.
Imagine lunar bases and Martian colonies as actual places we could go.
It's kind of hard to wrap my head around that.
It's mind-blowing.
It really is.
But it all starts with making it a reality one step at a time.
Right.
And that brings us back to those heat shields.
Okay. Yeah.
That seems to be the next big thing they need to nail down.
Makes sense. Before we start sending people to Mars,
Right.
we got to make sure the spaceship doesn't, burn up on the way back.
Exactly. Safety first.
But, knowing SpaceX,
they're on it.
yeah,
They'll figure it out.
they always seem to, right?
They're already testing new materials and designs
That's what I love about following them. They're relentless,
to just keep pushing forward.
never satisfied.
Always innovating.
And sometimes they crash and burn, literally.
It happens.
But even then, they learn from it.
That's the important part.
And they come back stronger.
Exactly. They use those failures to get them closer to their goals.
It's inspiring in a way.
It is. It shows that even the biggest setbacks can be overcome.
So for those of us who aren't, planning on hitching a ride on Starship anytime soon.
The average Joe just living their life.
Yeah.
Why should we even care about these giant robot chopsticks catching rockets?
That's a good question.
Because it's a sign of what's to come.
Okay.
It shows us that we're entering a whole new era of space exploration.
One where the impossible is becoming possible.
Exactly. And the limits of what we thought humans could achieve are being redefined every single day.
It's a good reminder to, I don't know.
Keep looking up.
Yeah, to keep dreaming.
To embrace the unknown, the unexpected.
Because the future is full of surprises.
It really is.
This whole deep dive has been pretty eye-opening.
It makes you think, right?
It really does.
Like, what if space travel?
Yeah.
What if it became as normal as hopping on a plane?
Wow.
And what if we could actually reach out and touch those other worlds we've always dreamed of?
That's pretty incredible.
It is. And who knows?
Right.
Maybe we'll look back at this moment,
Right.
at this whole chopsticks thing,
Yeah.
and see it as just the beginning.
The first step on a much larger journey.
Exactly.
Well, that's a pretty good place to leave it, I think.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a blast.